So our first question, I can't pronounce this person's username, but they are a listener on Spotify, and they shared this question about a week ago on one of our episodes. They said, is there any chance that you all can talk about having significant student debt? I recently found out that I apparently took out multiple loans for college at an insane 10 to 11% interest rate. Now that I'm in my postgraduate years, I'm realizing I need to figure this all out, which could include refinancing the debt. I have good credit, but I have no idea how to go about refinancing. Payments start next month, and they will be 66% of my monthly take-home pay. Thankfully, I'm living at home for now, but I do not want to be 40 years old still living at home because of the student loan debt. Any advice is great. I have my MBA, and I'm in an entry analyst role. I 100% hear you. This could be super intimidating. I've got friends that have about $250,000 of student loan debt as well. However, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're going to be high earners. Therefore, their income will be able to substantially offset what the student loan repayment process will look like. If you are someone who is like, listen, I've got these loans, I need to just see my options. I need to refinancing to figure this stuff out. There's a website that I've been recommending and using personally when I had student loans. It's called sparrowfi.com, SPARROWFI.com. So essentially what they do is, you know how you can like use Google Flights to type in like the airport you're at and the airport you want to end up at and the dates you want to travel, and they show you all the airlines, the times, the nonstops. Like Sparrowfi, in my opinion, is like Google Flights for student loans. You log in and tell them what kind of degree you have, how much debt you have, the interest rates, and they just shop your student loans and like, okay, here's where you are. These like 6 different lenders can give you a better rate. Maybe you want to lower your monthly payment, so you want a longer term. Like they've got a really cool back end system there that allows you to sort of shop and refinance your student loans in a way that's more meaningful to you, that will allow you to have them maybe not make up 66%. But I think this call out's really important, Robert, because unfortunately it's where a lot of people are. I think every recent college graduate's graduating with like $35,000 to $45,000 of student loans, which if you wanted just a rough ballpark on what that looks like, you take that first 2 numbers, so 35,000, 35, and you add a 0 to it, and that's your monthly minimum payment on average, you know, rough as to what that could look like for you. So if you are in college and you're like, wow, I've got $70,000 of student loans right now, and I don't know what that's going to turn into. It's probably going to turn into about $700 a month of a minimum payment there. So, you know, to this point, this person's got significant amounts of student debt. I would imagine that's well over, 6 figures, which means thousands of dollars or more. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out too, Robert, is that not only are we like trying to help you figure out this like refinancing thing, right? But more importantly, what you need to figure out is getting money invested so that you feel comfortable paying off these student loans. Dave Ramsey's entire thing is pay off the debt, get out of debt, knowing that in this situation, it could take you half a decade, maybe an entire decade to pay off these student loans, considering the interest rate and all the other things around it. The last thing I want you to do is sit here at the earliest ages of your life and not invest a dime for a decade because you want to put all your extra money to pay down debt. We want you to at least be maxing out your Roth IRA at that $7,000 a year every single year while you're paying down your debt. Because what's important to remember here is that like debt can go to 0, which means that if you had $150,000 of student loan debt and you paid it all off, congrats. Theoretically, your net worth went up by $150,000. But if you took that same $150,000 and invested it in the stock market, your net worth went up by that same 150 in the same period of time. But in 7 years, it's going to double to 300 and then double again to 600 and then double again to 1.2 million, because that's how compound interest works. Compound interest is much more favorable than the simple interest debt that you have with student loans.
Wow. That was an incredible take. I love this. And it really brings me just to one point. So many people are in this boat of high student loan debt with high interest, and they're not going to get out of it till 40 or 45 years old. And I remember an interview Mark Cuban said a few years back, and he said, if you want to fix the United States economy, you have to get younger people investing earlier. And Austin and I talk about this every single day, investing early and often, and I think it's a great take because you don't want to spend the next 10 years strictly focusing on the student loan debt and not investing, because then you're taking away 10 years of compounding. And that is really important to understand. And then the only other thing I would add to this is make sure you research anything with deferment plans or forbearance plans where you might be able to do something else to be able to put yourself in a better position for a few years to be able to do what Austin said is that, and that is start investing, get the Roth IRA maxed out, because this can wreak havoc on so many people's personal finances when they're paying off these high interest student loans for years and sometimes decades.
Yeah, as a personal anecdote, I recently helped one of my friends figure out the sort of forbearance navigation there. So, for example, I think she has like $130,000 or $150,000 of student loans. She's a doctor, like she's doing whatever, she's crushing it, but she's not investing and she didn't have an emergency fund. She had nothing. She was just paying her student loans of like $2,000 a month. And she's like, yep, I'm on this track where if I pay $2,000 a month for the next like 12 years, I'll have all my student loans paid. And so I'm just going to focus on that and live my life. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, are you maxing out your Roth IRA? Are you investing? Like, do you have any investments? She's in her late 20s. I think she turns 30 this year. She goes, no. And I'm like, okay, so you're about to turn 30 and the $2,000 a month that you're paying is going to go to student loans and you have no wiggle room in your margin or, your budget to invest. You're going to be now entering your early 40s with nothing invested, but like no student loans. Like, that's great from a student loan perspective. We don't want that forever, but why don't you try and figure out a way to pause the student loans, like you were mentioning, Robert, forbearance, take that same $2,000 a month for the next 2 years and put it in the stock market, which will get you about $50,000. Then you can go back to doing the student loan stuff, whatever, but you'll have $50,000 now growing for you over this next decade, which should turn into 100, 120, 130,000. And that's what she did. I convinced her to do this about 18 months ago, 12, 18 months ago. She's been doing it. And now she's got like, I think it's north of 30 or 35,000 invested across her Roth IRA, her bridge account. She got the emergency fund now, but she would have no idea that it's important to invest because we're taught, unfortunately, oh, we're in debt. Let's pay off the debt no matter like at what cost. And you have to understand what that cost is.
That is one of the biggest things that I struggle with emotionally every single day is when I see the influencers, these fake influencers we talk about, telling people don't waste your time investing $100, $200, $300 a month. You need to invest in this or you need to pay off this. They don't know what they're talking about. When you can get compound interest involved in your life early on, even if it's only $200 a month while you're dealing with student loan debt, while you're dealing with other things, and you stay consistent, even with those smaller amounts, you can still end up with millions of dollars 30 to 40 years down the road. And that's one of the biggest messages we're always promoting is you have to be consistent and invest early and often, even if it's smaller amounts.